Okay, lots of talk about Advent this morning, but what is Advent? Probably good to think about. So according to the church calendar, which for 1,700 years has been the way the church has told time, Advent is that 4-week period before Christmas. Now, here's the thing. For 17 centuries, the church really dictated to the culture how to set seasons, because the church was dominant. So it would tell the culture, like, this is when we do this is when we do that. But now we live in a pretty secular context, meaning that things get real blurry, and it creates these certain dilemmas. Let me give you an example. It's a musical dilemma. You know this. A nanosecond after Halloween's over, the stores are bringing out Christmas, right? Super duper early. So that means that early start to Christmas, on the 26th of December when Christmas happens, the day after, everybody's so worn out they put all their stuff away right away, right? And if you keep your gear up after the 26th, you feel like a weirdo hoarder because everyone else has moved on. So it doesn't really give you a chance to have Christmastide, the time when Christmas is to be celebrated. That creates a dilemma because our culture fires up Christmas too early and kills it off too quickly. So there is really no time for us to sing that well-crafted repertoire of Christmas songs, which are hits, really. Because if you sing them in Advent, you can't do it properly. That's like singing happy birthday to somebody a month before it's happened. You can do it, it doesn't really make sense. The baby isn't here yet. So you can't really sing Christmas songs so much in Advent, but because it's killed off so quickly, you can't really sing Christmas songs after Advent and after Christmas. So the only time we have to sing a huge amount of really awesome songs is one night a year. Right? No. Boo. Boo to that lie. Boo. Let me hear a boo. No, that's not a boo. That's not a lamentable boo. Boo. It stinks, man. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to try to do something. You can join the resistance. We're going to fight back against that so we can actually celebrate the aftertaste of the amazing thing that the Son of God has come to the earth. So we're going to try to do this. Here's how you can help. First of all, you can take up those Advent resources I just mentioned and use them to prepare well and wait well. Then, we're also not going to try to sing a ton of Christmas songs in Advent. We're going to have some unusual patience there. And then after Christmas Eve, we're going to do some unusual lingering and actually load a ton of Christmas songs into the 3 Sundays after Christmas Eve. I know, we're going to be strange birds here, but come fly with us. We're going to do that because actually those songs are for Christmastide, the time after Christmas. Just like Easter, we boot off Easter songs too quickly and we're like, resurrection, what? Christ has come and invaded the planet. It's a really big deal. So we're going to revel in it for a while and really soak that up. So that's the plan for it in celebrating both Advent and Christmas. So that's Advent well. How about Advent what? What is Advent? Huh? So it comes from the Latin word adventus, meaning coming. So Advent is a time where the people of God purposely stop and wait for the coming of the King. Like, they don't rush ahead to a holiday glow and just smear over everything, but we wait and say, we're waiting for the King to come. Even in the anxiety of it, we're waiting. And we're also waiting for him to come again. Advent's about the first and the second coming of Christ. So we're purposely doing that. We're waiting together. That's the point of it. And if you study the Bible at all, for 600 years, the Jews waited for their Messiah to come in a time that was pretty difficult to do so. They're constantly under oppression or the reign of some sort of foreign tyrant. And so it's really difficult. It's a lot of anxiety. It's a lot of delayed hope. And now it's true that Advent isn't just about lament, but to be honest, it certainly includes anxiety, waiting, and pain for sure. Because the truth is, sometimes you just need to sing the blues. And so in this new sermon series called Advent Playlist, like a song playlist, we're going to work through different song genres in the Bible that introduce different themes for Advent. And the first one is the blues. It's just singing the blues. And it's right to do so as we wait, sometimes with anxiety, sometimes with grieving and pain. So today we're going to sing the blues. This is not a Christmas cookie sermon. This is the dark time. So let's think about that. And in case you're not super familiar with the genre of the blues, we'll watch this quick clip, which is like a primer in the history of it.
Prepare to embark on a soul-stirring journey into the heart of American musical heritage, a journey that traces the origins of a genre that embodies the human experience in its purest form. Welcome to the world of blues music, an art form born from pain, shaped by resilience, and steeped in the essence of the human soul. Our odyssey commences in the fertile soil of the Mississippi Delta, an epicenter of history, culture, and suffering. Blues music, with its roots intertwined in the African American experience, emerged as a raw and honest expression of life's trials and triumphs. The origins of blues music can be traced to the late 19th century, when African American communities began to share their stories through song. It was a time of adversity, of sharecropping, racial segregation, and hardship. Out of this adversity, the blues emerged as a beacon of hope, an outlet for pain, and a means of survival.
Okay, good. Because it sounds a little weird, I'll just read some of the prescient stuff from that. So it says this, that video notes, the blues is an art form born from pains, shaped by resilience, and steeped in the essence of the human soul. The roots of blues music are intertwined in the African American experience. The origin of blues music can be traced to the late 19th century. It's a time of adversity, sharecropping, racial segregation, and hardship. Out of this adversity, the blues emerged as a beacon of hope, an outlet for pain, and a means of survival. Well, that's helpful. That's why I chose the blues as the first genre. But here's what I take issue with the video in this way. While the sound of the blues and the style of it might have been a new development, the content of the blues happened way, way before that. Because the first blues music were really adaptations of African spirituals, which were slave songs. Those slave songs were heavily lifted out of the Old Testament, heavily. So those themes of the Hebrew people in slavery in Egypt were taken and drawn into these African spirituals. And also, poets like King David, he has a big chunk of laments, Psalms of Lament, that were lifted into these slave spirituals. So if you want to understand the content of the blues, you can't go to the 1900s AD. You got to go way back to the 1900s BC. And so today we consider one of the early blues singers. It's a person by the name of Habakkuk. Lived in the 7th century in a time of intense suffering. And he is the writer or the author of one of those tiny books in the Old Testament you can't find without a table of contents. Habakkuk. Now, this picture is pretty deceptive because with the pastels, it looks pretty serene. Like his background looks pretty serene. This is much more representative of Habakkuk's real experience. Looks like he's singing a pretty intense blues right there. And the reason why is the context. So in 609 BC, the good king Josiah, who followed the Lord, he's dead. Wicked king Jehoiakim, he's now the king. And it's a period of heavy taxation, widespread political corruption in Jerusalem. The king has taken the poor people of the Jews and enslaved them to build his public works. And there's a huge uptick in the idolatry that King Josiah had smashed. So everything's looking super bad for Habakkuk, and he begins to sing the blues to God. And here's how it sounds. Chapter 1, verse 2. O Lord, how long shall I cry for help? This is the blues. And you will not hear me. Or cry to you, violence, and you will not save. Why do you make me see iniquity and sin? And why do you look idly at wrong? Destruction and violence are before me. Strife and contention arise. So the law is paralyzed, and justice never goes forth. For the wicked surround the righteous, so justice goes forth perverted. That's the blues right there. That's a lament. He's lamenting thickly. And then God does answer Habakkuk. But it's interesting how he does answer. He begins his answer like this. This is God now to Habakkuk. Look among the nations and see. Wonder and be astounded. For I am doing a work in your days that you would not believe if told. Which is dead on. Because in the next verses, God gives Habakkuk an answer to his curiosity. Why is there so much horrible? What's going to happen? Where is the help? He gives the answer. And much of it, Habakkuk can't understand. But the part that he does understand, he doesn't like it. Because God says, I'm going to use the Babylonian army to take care of this corruption in Jerusalem. Which to Habakkuk sounds way, way worse. It's like, I'm going to kill a bad cockroach with an atom bomb. So he laments again. He's like, well, that's horrible. The Babylonian army, they are savages, absolute savages. And they do come in and savage Israel and totally lay the city to waste. And Habakkuk has a sense of this, though. He laments back. Here's another lament. Why, God, do you tolerate the treacherous? Why are you silent while the wicked swallow up more righteous than themselves? That's another lament. It's kind of a call and response blues song right here that you're seeing. But let's pause to consider something, because in a few minutes, we're going to have the opportunity ourselves to sing the blues to God. We're purposely going to pause and sing the blues. But it brings into our thoughts, like, is it good to lament? Like, is it a good thing, a good practice to cultivate, lamenting? Well, first I give the evidence of the Bible. So the Bible presents lamenting, and I found in my own research that lamenting to God is uniquely a biblical concept. Like, the other world religions don't have that idea of lamenting and singing the blues to God. It's not a genre within their text. So this is a uniquely Christian, Judeo-Christian background thing. Is it a good thing to do? Well, the Bible has a ton of precedent for that. So not only does David have a ton of psalms that are lament psalms, but also there's an entire book in the Bible called Lamentations, my biblical scholars. So you know that lament is a part of the history of the people of God. In covenant with God, they sing lament to God. So that's something. But also, there's a difference between lament and whining. And I think that's, for us, the thing that makes us uneasy. Even if it's helpful, because there's a ton of physiological, psychological benefits for lament. I'll read to you some of them. These are true for singing the blues too. So a bunch of research has been done. Is it helpful, mind-body, for you to sing the blues? So here's what they found. Yes, it gives voice to pain. Blues lyrics often name hurt directly: loss, loneliness, frustration, injustice. Psychologically, naming emotions helps regulate them. When we hear someone else put our feelings into words, our nervous system actually calms down. So there is a physiological benefit to singing the blues. It's safer. It's a safe way to express dark emotions. Second reason. Blues give structure to chaos, anger, sorrow, or frustration. These feelings are placed inside a predictable musical notation and repeated with patterns. This containment lets people process heavy emotions without being overwhelmed. There's structure to the chaos. Third, singing the blues creates emotional resonance. You feel less alone. Knowing that others have felt what you feel reduces isolation. Blues lament is a way of saying, you are not alone. You're not the only one hurting. Humans regulate emotions best together, not alone. So there's a strong case that can be made, mind-body benefit to lamentations or lamenting. But the bigger question is for us. We feel uneasy about, is it okay? Well, it's not a whine. Here's the difference. Because when you sing the blues to God, you sing it in relationship. In her book, Working in the Presence of God, Denise Daniels gives this great distinction. She says this: when we whine, we simply want someone to listen without responding. That is true. You know this if you have a spouse and you're like, this is horrible. And he or she says anything, you're like, just let me tell you how horrible it is. Don't try to make it better. Anyways, when we whine, we simply want someone to listen without responding. Whining is not the same as lament. Lament produces change in us because it's a two-way conversation with God. There is humility in lament, an openness to listen to and hear from God. When we lament, we invite God to be our companion in the sorrow and despair. That is so big. That's a difference. Lamenting is not griping. It's not whining. It is acknowledging what is true. There is immense brokenness around us. Some of it's inside of us. A great amount of it is in the world. So when we lament, the beginning of a good biblical lament begins with acknowledging the brokenness of the world. It does no good to pretend otherwise. Christianity is not a fallacy, and it's not some sort of fantasy. It's saying this is true, and that is quite horrible. I don't like it. This seems wrong. I don't know why it continues to go on. So a lament begins with that acknowledgement, doesn't pretend otherwise, and then it seeks to sit in the presence of God with it. You're singing to God. You're taking it to God, and then sitting with God in it. and acknowledging it. So we're going to do some lamenting. And I'll give you some examples to work with just in case you need any help, okay? Because this world is broken, and the beauty and the truth of Christianity lets us view that head on. Without whistling in the graveyard or turning away, we can look at it head on and name it for what it is. So here's one lament that's personal to me. It may resonate with you if you have aging parents. I call it decay and distance, the lament of decay and distance. So my own parents are in or around their 80s. They struggle with some real physical setbacks. And so this person who's my age, who describes older parents, I think puts the description well. So enter in if you can. Here's what she writes. It doesn't happen all at once. There's no announcement, no warning, no moment where life taps you on the shoulder and tells you, look closely, things are changing. It happens quietly. You're busy, working, raising kids, paying bills, rushing through days that feel too short. And one afternoon, you go home to visit your parents. You notice the small things first. Your dad gets up from the couch a little slower. Your mother asks you to repeat something she would have heard clearly before. You notice they hold the railing when they go downstairs more. They walk together to stabilize each other more. They sit more than they stand. They nap more. You have thoughts you never thought before, like, who changes the light bulbs now? Who carries the heavy groceries? Who helps them understand their new phones? And suddenly, the roles you've always known start shifting. The hands that raised you now tremble when pouring coffee. The voices that soothed you now need reassurance themselves. And people who once felt invincible now feel heartbreakingly human. You begin to understand something deeper. Growing older isn't just happening to them, it's happening to you too. And love starts to look different. It becomes driving them to appointments, fixing things they didn't ask help for, listening to stories you've heard over and over again, staying a little longer instead of rushing out, appreciating all the little sacrifices that they have made you once overlooked, because now you finally see it. Your parents aren't just aging, they're winding down a chapter they spent decades writing, a chapter filled with you. And the quiet truth is, they won't say it out loud, but they're hoping you'll walk through the door a little more. Not to fix anything, not to bring anything, just to be there, to sit, to talk, to laugh, to listen. One day you'll realize these are the visits that matter most, because time moves fast. But moments with aging parents, those are memories that stay soft forever. Now, we have a robust promise of resurrection, do we not? But that is something you can lament. Corruption, decay of our bodies, it comes to us all. And it's not only the decay, I lament the distance. You know, most of us live states away sometimes from our family. We can't visit them. We can't. It's not possible, not regularly, and make those kind of memories. That's lamentable. And I know we have little ears here, so I'll just say this. That stinks to high heaven. And we can lament that, not without hope, but we can sing the blues to God about that stuff. And it's true. And so maybe that lament of decay and distance doesn't touch you. You're super young, I get that. Well, let's just give you a couple more before we give you a couple of minutes to lament. Things like crime and corruption, both local and global and national. There's a ton of it. Global child slavery, human trafficking. According to the International Labor Organization, 54 million children frequently do and have to do work that puts their bodies and their lives at risk. That's still happening. Slavery isn't just a Confederacy issue from the past. It happens today. It's horrible, right? There's so much that's broken in our culture. It doesn't do justice to the reality of the suffering of people made in the image of God that suffer and hurt each other unless we take time to lament well, to sing some of the blues. So we'll give you some time. We're going to have a song be played in a second. It is a lament song. And during the song, let's take time to practice lament and acknowledge before God what's lamentable in our world. Reflect on it in his presence and sit with him in it. That's again what makes this not just whining. You're sitting with God in it. You're acknowledging what's broken. You're asking for his help. But let's take some time to do this because I think it's important to do well. So go ahead and play that song and bring your laments to God.
Flesh will fail, and bones will break, thieves will steal, the earth will shake, night will fall, the light will fade, the Lord will give and take away. Put no trust in the earth, in the sod you stand up on. Flowers fade into dust. The Lord will make a place for us because of his great love. We are not overcome because of his great love. We are not overcome. Have no fear for your life. Turn your cheek, turn your cheek. Bear the yoke, love and death. The Lord will give life and breath. Because
In 2008, when I was just at the seminary, I was green as grass as a pastor. I had really no experience walking with people through the human mess of suffering in real life. And I remember there was this lady from our church, super cool lady named Margot. She would become a Christian later in life as an adult and was on fire for Christ. And it was July of 2008 when she was actually at the community rummage sale in our little town, and she just collapsed. They took her to the hospital, and a few hours later she died. And it just made no sense to me, you know? Like, here is a woman who loved Jesus so much and had two teenagers who needed her influence so much. And her husband wasn't a Christian and really was somebody who had no time for church, and I'm sure thought pastors like us, like myself, were useless. He was an old school, like, farmer, huge guy, old Scandinavian kind of mindset. This may not land if you're not from the Midwest and like a farm culture, but like, there are no tender emotions that you express when you're sober that aren't ridiculed out of existence. So this guy probably hadn't like had a tender feeling, rage not included, since like 1985. And so here I am, and he's waiting for me at the hospital. And then just before I left, a solid Christian guy who was friends with Randy, his name is Randy, the widow, said, "Kay, can I come with you?" And I was like, "Yes, you can definitely come with me." And I remember the hospital's an hour away, so rural. It's an hour away. And I remember riding in silence, terrified silence with Mike, just racking my brain, like, what am I going to say to this fresh widow? I have no clue what to say. And I remember this like it happened yesterday. We pulled into this hospital parking lot, All True Hospital, Grand Forks, and there is Randy, this hulking mass. I was terrified of this guy. We got out of the car, he's waiting for us. We walk over, and Mike, without saying anything, went over to him, grabbed him by the neck, and pulled him into a hug and said, Randy, what does the guy say? It's one of those like sacred moments. I don't use that word often, but it was just so sacred where like he just sat with him in that pain. And then I remember that Randy himself, his own mom had died when he was a teenager. So, and Randy knew that. Like Mike's mom passed away when he was a teenager. And Randy knew that about Mike, because everybody knows each other in a small community, good and bad. And so when he pulled him in, like, it was credible. Like, he knew he understood his suffering. And this guy, this big Viking farmer, wept as Mike held him. And that was just it was how God works. Because really, God doesn't give us answers for everything. Because it's a tempting, weird thought that I've had before, too. Wouldn't it be sweet if God spoke to me directly about my questions like he did the prophets? That's not a faithful reading of the Bible. First of all, he rarely gives all the answers to the prophets. And even if he did, we couldn't understand them. Like, we can't understand the full counsel of God. He doesn't give us answers. He gives us something better than an answer. He gives us a person. He gave us himself. Jesus coming to the earth is the best thing he could give us. Somebody who would enter into our suffering, to sit with us in it. Because that's really what God's saying. Like, I can't explain everything to you. Sit with me. Let me sit with you in this. And let my reality overwhelm all of your mystery by the fact that you know I love you. I proved it with my own son. Not only did he enter into your suffering, but also he suffered himself to mend us in our deepest brokenness, which is the biggest problem we have in this world, to restore relationship with us and a holy God. So even though we can't understand a lot of stuff, we do see the cross. And we know that it's proof that God not only cares, and you can sing all the blues you want to him. He can handle it all. Sing the blues. That's great. He wants it. He's like, bring it to me. Bring it to me. Don't worry. It doesn't threaten me. I don't get anxious. I know how this game ends, and I know that I'm there, and I'm here with you now. So you can bring it to me. But also think about, let it resolve on the promise of God. Because that's really how the book of Habakkuk ends. It begins in this lament, and the final words, which we'll read, are Habakkuk's conviction. Like, he's singing this last bit of his conviction that God is real, and that will be his hope. And this is actually sung by Habakkuk, because at the end, as you'll note, it says this, for the director of music on my stringed instruments. Habakkuk is playing the first blues guitar and is singing this last bit of conviction about what he believes and what's true for him. Here's what he writes and sings. Though the fig tree should not blossom, nor fruit be on the vine, though the olive crop fails and the fields produce no food, though there is no sheep in the pen and no cattle in the stalls, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will take joy in the God of my salvation. The sovereign Lord is my strength. I love that language. It's language of conviction. Although everything else might go horribly, there's no fruit, there's no cattle, there's no food. Everything's horrible. We get a bunch of Babylonian mercenaries just swarming about us. All those things might be true, and they were true. Yet I will rejoice in the Lord my God. I will take joy in the God of my salvation. It's aggressive. Like, he's like, I'm taking it. I'm taking joy. I'm fighting for it, and I will have it. Because I believe there's a God there. He's with me. He will never forsake me. He's my strength. It's an aggressive thing. You have to fight for joy. It's not a passive thing. Lamenting, that's part of it. Practicing that lament, knowing and sitting with God in it as a conversation, listening to God. It's why we do all these things we're doing. Like, the Sanctuary Sounds is on purpose of people of God coming together. We're going to sit and do some lamenting, but we'll also celebrate the God who we await. That's what we're doing. The Advent offering of thanks is a time to aggressively push back with a weapon of gratitude against despair. That's why we do this. It's not just to fill your time and do weird stuff. We're purposely trying to load each other up to fight for joy. I will take joy. I know everything else is madness. I'm going to take joy. That's what's going to define me. I'm going to take up these tools. We're not doing communion today, but oftentimes we do it. It's purposely to spiritually form us and help us remember that though the world may be black, we do not have to go into corners and suffer like animals alone. We believe that because of the cross, there is victory in that bread and cup. And we believe that. It's more true than everything else. It's more true than my fears of the future. It's more true than the pain of the past. It's more true. You're saying it's more true. That's what we do. We're taking up these tools to fight for joy. It's part of Advent for sure. And so we close our time fittingly with 2 blues songs. One we're going to hear and give you time to think through, do some more lamenting, but also, again, let it resolve with the promise, right? The lament begins with this honest acknowledgement, the world's so jacked up and I'm a part of it. Then it also resolves on the other end with, I believe you're still good. I know you love me, you proved it. So we're going to give you some time to do that, fittingly with one of the first blues songs. So written in the early 1900s by Thomas Dorsey after his wife and child died in childbirth, he sings the blues. But it's a hopeful blues, right? So we're going to hear that. It's a raw recording, so it's going to sound raw-ish, as it should. I mean, this is a chronicle of pain mingled with hope, and that's lament. That's biblical, singing the blues to God, with God, sitting with God, lament, at the same time letting the hope resolve and resonate at the end. And then you're going to respond after the song. The worship team will come up and help us sing a way old blues song, O Come, Emmanuel. Right, of all the Advent Christmas songs, that is the blues song, because listen to the lyrics, O come, Emmanuel, and ransom, help us, captive Israel, we are captive, that mourns in lowly exile here. We are ripped apart from everything good. We need you. Come. That's a blues song, that's a lament. So you're going to respond to that. A lot of this is participatory. You're not getting spoken to, you're interacting with God. That's the best part of our worship. Give you time to interact with God. Let you have agency, you have it. So let's listen to the song from Thomas Dorsey. Let God continue to speak to you.